I have always believed that love could survive any distance, as long as two people kept reaching for each other. For 9 years, Lauren and I tried to do exactly that. She was a flight attendant with a schedule that shifted like the wind, and I was an aircraft technician bound to the hangars and workshop floors of Phoenix Sky Harbor. Our lives crossed like two flight paths that briefly intersect, touch, then drift apart again. But I always thought they'd meet again, perfectly aligned. On most nights, our home felt like an airport lounge. Temporary. A waiting place between departures. Her suitcase lived near the bedroom door, half-packed even on her days off, as if it was easier to be ready to leave than to settle back in. I did not blame her. It was her dream before she met me. The sky had claimed her long before I did. I used to admire that freedom in her. I used to love how her eyes lit up whenever a plane took off. It meant she believed in possibility. I believed in her. But over the years something changed. Or maybe it was me who changed first. I started noticing how quiet the house was without her. How I would speak into rooms that did not speak back. I told myself that love meant patience. I told myself that she would come home to me because home was where I was. But sometimes I wondered if home was just where her luggage stopped for a moment. That Tuesday night, the clock on the microwave read 11 past midnight. The television was on, but I was not watching anything. I had just finished a long shift and my body ached the way steel does after too much pressure, bent but not broken. I checked my phone out of habit. One new message came in from Ben, a coworker who sometimes joked too much but meant well. He wrote that he had seen Lauren having dinner. Not with her crew, but with a captain named Greg Simmons. They were sitting close, laughing. He said he thought I should know. At first I laughed. It was a short, dry sound as if my body was trying to pretend everything was fine. Lauren knew pilots. She flew with different teams all the time. Dinner could be a professional courtesy. A friendly exchange. A moment of rest during a layover. I typed out a reply but deleted every word before sending any of them. I erased 3 different versions of anger, 2 versions of denial, and 1 attempt to be rational. In the end, I decided not to respond at all. I trusted my wife. Or maybe I trusted the idea of her more than the reality I had begun to notice. The house was warm but felt cold. I looked at the framed photograph on the mantel. It was from our trip years ago, the one to Anchorage, where the air was so clean and the world felt untouched. We had promised each other we would go back. Someday. When our schedules aligned. When life calmed down. Someday. It is a dangerous word. It can stretch into forever until forever breaks. The next morning, Lauren came home just before sunrise. I heard her keys at the door, the familiar click that usually brought relief. I wanted to get up and greet her as I used to. Wrap my arms around her. Breathe in the faint scent of airport and sky that always clung to her clothes. But I hesitated. Something small, something new held me still. She walked into the kitchen, dropped her keys, poured herself water, and smiled at me the way she always did. A smile I used to feel warm me all the way to the bone. But this time it seemed practiced. Not false but familiar. A smile she gave to the world. A smile for show. Maybe I was imagining it. Maybe I was tired. Maybe love makes you blind, but truth always waits, patient and steady. She leaned over and kissed my cheek, light as the brush of a passing wing. We spoke of small things. The weather. Her flight. My shift. The things that fill silence without meaning. And I felt a strange ache in my chest, like something was trying to speak but I did not yet know its name. Later that day I gathered laundry. A simple task. Ordinary. Harmless. But that was when everything began to shift into place, one piece at a time. I reached into the pocket of her jacket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. A hotel welcome slip. Standard. Printed. Impersonal. Except for the name handwritten across the top. Lauren Turner. Room 423. Airport Hotel. My hands did not shake. My heart did not race. It was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that comes before you accept something you did not want to see. I stared at the paper for a long time. Long enough to feel the kitchen around me fade out. Long enough to understand that I had known, somewhere deep inside, long before I found proof. I placed the slip on the counter. It was not a weapon. It was not a question. It was simply the truth. And truths do not need to shout. They just need to be seen. But I was not ready to speak. Not yet. Not while the meaning of that quiet was still unfolding inside me. I looked around our home again. The walls. The memories. The stillness. Something in me whispered that I was standing at the edge of something I could not undo. I did not know yet where that edge would lead me. But I knew I had already begun to step over it. The next day moved slowly as if time itself did not trust me to handle it. I went to work as usual, wearing the same uniform, walking the same hangar floor, hearing the same whir of engines and tools. But something in me was not the same. It felt like there was a thin crack running through my chest, and everything I saw or heard seemed to echo through it. I tried to focus on the aircraft in front of me, a passenger jet that needed a systems check before its next flight. The smell of fuel and metal usually grounded me, gave me purpose. I was good at what I did. I understood machines. Machines did not lie. Something was wrong, it showed you. A warning light. A vibration. A number off by just enough to mean danger. You could measure truth in metal. But people were not built that way. And love certainly was not. I kept thinking about the folded hotel slip on the kitchen counter. I had left it there on purpose, as if seeing it might make it make sense. But nothing about it made sense. When I got home that afternoon, Lauren was already gone for another flight. Her suitcase was gone too. Only the faint scent of her perfume lingered in the bedroom. A reminder. A shadow. I walked to the kitchen and saw the slip still where I had left it. The handwriting at the top looked softer in the afternoon light, almost gentle. I wondered if she had picked up the pen with excitement. If she had been smiling. If she had been thinking of someone who was not me. I had always believed that love was built in the small things. The quiet mornings. The shared cups of coffee. The glances across a room. I did not know that it could also be undone in small things. A name on a paper. A laugh held too softly. A touch that should not have meaning but does. I sat at the table and stared out the window. The Arizona sky was wide and blue, as if nothing could be hidden beneath it. I felt the weight of the quiet again. Heavy. Familiar now. By evening, I knew I could not live in questions. They do not rest. They gnaw. So I made a decision. A simple one. A painful one. I would go to the hotel. Not to confront. Not to accuse. To see. The next night, I drove to the airport hotel. I took my old work bag and a toolbox, giving myself a reason to be there. Sometimes the hotel called technicians from the hangar for quick electrical issues. It would not look strange if someone saw me. The parking lot was bright under the street lamps. I sat in my truck for a while, engine idling, the hum steady and low. My heart was steady too. I was not angry. I was not afraid. I was simply waiting for the truth to step into the open. Inside, the lobby was warm and filled with the soft sound of distant voices. I walked past the desk and toward the restaurant. My steps were slow. Not hesitant, but deliberate. I needed to be sure of what I was walking into. And there she was. Lauren sat at a round table near the window. The city lights glowed behind her like a backdrop to something I did not want to witness. She was smiling. Not the polite smile. Not the public one. It was the smile she used to give me when we were new. When everything felt bright. When she believed that love was easy. Sitting across from her was a man in a pilot uniform. Greg. I recognized him from flight rosters I had seen before. He leaned in slightly, listening to her. She touched his arm when she laughed. Soft. Familiar. As if her hand already knew the shape of him. There are moments in life that do not break you with noise. They break you with silence. The kind of silence that is full of understanding. I did not walk to their table. I did not call her name. I did not want to see her eyes widen, or watch her search for explanations that would not hold. I did not want to hear apologies formed from panic instead of truth. Love deserves clarity, even at its end. So I turned and walked back out to the parking lot. The night air was cool. My breath came slow and steady. In the bed of my truck was a stack of sticky notes and a pen. Old habits. Mechanics always kept notes handy. Words came to me simply. Not from anger. Not from pain. Just truth. I wrote. I hope your next flight leads you toward honesty. I stood there for a moment, feeling the weight of the words in my hand. Then I walked to her car. The silver sedan she had chosen 5 years ago because it was practical and fuel efficient. The car I helped maintain. The car she always drove to the airport. I placed the note on the dashboard where she would see it as soon as she opened the door. Then I got into my truck and drove home. The house felt different when I walked in. Not empty. Finished. There is a kind of grief that does not come with tears. It comes with acceptance. Quiet. Steady. I walked to the bedroom closet and pulled down a small box. Inside it was a plane ticket. Printed months ago. A return to Alaska. The trip we had promised to take again. The place where everything had felt clear. Only one ticket. I had always meant to buy the second later when our schedules matched. But now I understood something I had not before. Some promises are made with hope. Not certainty. I packed a small bag. I took the ticket. I left my wedding ring on the nightstand. Not out of anger. But because it no longer belonged where it had been. Before I walked out the door, I turned off the lights and let the house return to darkness. I did not look back. I did not need to. Some endings do not need to be witnessed. They simply need to be lived. Sky looked different. I arrived at the airport before sunrise. The sky was still dark, the kind of darkness that feels thick, like it is trying to hold on to the night for just a moment longer. I parked in the long-term lot, killed the engine, and sat there for a while. I could still feel the imprint of that note in my hand, even though I had left it on her dashboard the night before. Words can linger in your bones long after you release them. The silence inside the truck felt heavier than the silence at home had been. At home there had still been the echo of us. Here the quiet felt clean. Absolute. A new kind of emptiness. The kind that waits for you to decide what comes next. I looked at the plane ticket sitting on the passenger seat. The print was beginning to fade at the edges. I had bought it months ago with a kind of hope that now felt naive. I traced my thumb over the word Anchorage. I remembered cold air against our faces, her laughter rising through white breath, snow falling into her eyelashes. I remembered believing that places could save us. That if we just went back to where we started, everything would make sense again. But sometimes returning only shows you how far you have wandered without noticing. I slung my bag over my shoulder and stepped out of the truck. The morning air in Phoenix was cool but dry. A reminder that this desert never lets you forget where you are. I walked toward the terminal, surrounded by travelers with rolling luggage, earbuds, tired eyes, and silent stories. I blended in easily. Just another person going somewhere else. Inside, the airport was bright and full of motion. Departure boards flickered blue and white. Voices echoed. Announcements rose and fell in calm, practiced tones. I had walked through this place thousands of times to work, but today it felt unfamiliar. Like I was seeing it with new eyes. Or maybe with eyes that were finally clear. I made my way toward the security line. The guard glanced at my boarding pass, nodded, and waved me through. Routine. Ordinary. And yet every step felt like peeling away a layer of something I had carried for years. I was stepping out of a life, but it did not feel like running away. It felt like breathing. The gate for Anchorage was quiet. A few other passengers waited, some reading, some asleep in their seats. I sat near the window. Outside, the first light of morning was beginning to stretch across the runway, soft and pale. I watched a plane lift into the sky. Smooth, steady, certain. I wondered when I had stopped feeling like that. My phone buzzed in my pocket, vibrating like it was trembling. For a moment, I just let it sit there. The vibration stopped, then started again. And again. I finally looked. Lauren. 3 missed calls. A message. Then another. And another. Caleb, please call me. We need to talk. I found your note. Please. Just talk to me. I can explain. I stared at the screen. My chest felt heavy but not shattered. Not the way I would have expected. Her words felt distant, like an echo coming from behind a closed door. A door I had already walked away from. I locked the phone and set it face down. People always say they can explain. But explanations are not repairs. They are bandages for wounds already bleeding. I looked out the window again. The sun was rising now, turning the sky gold. Beautiful. Honest. I heard her voice then. Not from memory. Real. In the airport. Caleb. I turned. Lauren stood there. Breathless. Still wearing her uniform from the night before, as if she had not given herself time to change. Her hair was slightly undone. Her eyes were wide, red around the edges. She looked like someone who had run through the night to catch up to something already leaving. She stepped closer, slowly, as if afraid I might disappear. I didn't think you'd still be here, she said softly. I did not say anything. I did not trust my voice yet. I was afraid it might break, not from hurt, but from too much clarity. She swallowed, her throat tight. Caleb, please, let me explain. I remembered that moment in the hotel lobby. Her laughter. The way her hand rested on his arm as if it had found a place it knew. Sometimes the truth is so clear that explanations only insult it. There's nothing to explain, I said quietly. She shook her head quickly. No, there is. It wasn't what you think. Greg and I, it just happened. It wasn't planned. I was lonely. I was tired. We were working late. I should have told you. I should have talked to you. I know. I know I hurt you. Her words fell like broken glass. Sure. Messy. Shining just enough to seem like they could matter. I looked at her for a long moment. I saw everything I had loved. And everything that had already ended. Lauren, I said, my voice steady, I don't need to be angry at you to know that I can't stay. She took a small step toward me. We can fix this. I shook my head. We can't fix something we stopped holding together a long time ago. Her eyes filled. Not with sudden tears but slow ones. Heavy ones. The kind you cry when you finally understand the truth you've been running from. She reached out, her hand hovering near mine, but she didn't touch me. Maybe she knew that touch belonged to another time. "I still love you," she whispered. I closed my eyes for a moment. The words hurt not because they were false but because they might have been true too late. "I loved us," I said. "But love needs honesty. And I think we lost that somewhere along the way." The boarding announcement called passengers to line up. I picked up my bag. Lauren didn't try to stop me. She didn't chase. She didn't raise her voice. She just stood there, her hands still suspended in the air, holding nothing. I walked toward the gate. My steps were steady. The plane waited, engines quiet, ready. Before I boarded, I looked back once. She looked smaller than I remembered. Or maybe I had finally grown. And then I turned, walked down the jet bridge, and stepped into a new sky. When the plane landed in Anchorage, the air that filled the cabin felt different from any I had breathed in months. Cold, sharp, and clean. The kind of air that does not allow you to hide from yourself. I stepped out of the jet bridge and felt my lungs expand in a way they had not in a long time. As though they finally remembered what breathing was supposed to feel like. The airport here was smaller and quieter than Phoenix. People walked slower. No one seemed to be in a hurry to outrun themselves. I passed through the terminal and out into the morning light. Snow covered the edges of the sidewalks, packed down into soft ridges by boots that had come before mine. The mountains rose in the distance, blue and white and imperceptible, like they knew every secret the sky ever held. I rented a small truck from a company whose name I had never heard before. No conversation. No questions. Just a set of keys and directions to the lot. The engine started with a low, familiar rumble. I rested my hands on the wheel and felt something steady inside me. Not certainty, but presence. I was here. That was enough. The roads were lined with evergreens heavy with snow. Ice clung to the branches like crystal. The world felt untouched. Pure. Honest. I drove toward a cabin we had stayed in years ago. I remembered the road by heart. Some places carve themselves so deeply into you that you cannot forget them even if every other part of your life changes. The cabin sat near the edge of a frozen lake. The roof was covered in white. The windows were frosted. The porch boards creaked under my boots. I unlocked the door and the hinges groaned softly, like they recognized me. Inside, the air was cold and still, but the space was exactly as I remembered. Wooden walls. A stone fireplace. A small table by the window that once held 2 coffee mugs side by side. I stood there for a moment, letting my eyes move slowly across every surface. There were no ghosts here. Only memories. The difference between the two is weight. Memories soften with time. Ghosts do not. I set my bag down and started a fire. The flames caught slow at first, then grew steady, filling the room with warm orange light. I sat in front of it, feeling the heat seep into my skin. My body relaxed, though my chest still held a quiet ache. Not sharp anymore. Just present. Like a reminder of something I had survived. As the fire crackled, I thought about the life I had left behind. The house in Phoenix. The kitchen table. The suitcase near the bedroom door. I saw Lauren's face at the airport. The way her eyes had filled, and the moment she realized I was already gone, even while standing right in front of her. I did not hate her. That was the part that surprised me. Hate is heavy. I did not want to carry it. Love had been real once. What broke did not erase what had been true. It only changed the way it lived inside me. Outside, the wind began to move across the lake, brushing snow into small drifts. I watched it through the window and thought about how some things shift slowly, gently, barely noticed. Others change in a single breath. The days here moved differently. I spent the morning walking along the frozen shoreline, listening to the distant cracks of ice adjusting to the cold. At night, I sat by the fire with a cup of warm coffee and let the silence settle around me. The quiet no longer hurt. It rested. It healed. On the 4th evening, the sky cleared. Completely. No clouds. No haze. Just stars bright enough to feel close. I stepped outside and looked up. The northern lights began as a faint shimmer, then unfurled across the sky in slow waves of green and pale blue. Like the sky itself was breathing. I remembered the first time we had seen them together. Lauren had laughed, spinning in the snow like a child. She said the lights looked like curtains to another world. A world where everything made sense. I believed her then. I believed in everything then. Now, standing alone beneath the same sky, I realized something that did not break me, but settled something long unsettled. Some things are meant to be beautiful for a time, not forever. The lights shifted again, brighter now. The colors poured across the sky in slow, sweeping arcs. They did not demand meaning. They simply existed. Real. Present. Honest. I stood there in the cold, my breath rising in white clouds. I could still feel the ache of loss. But it no longer felt like something I needed to fight. It felt like something I could carry. Something that could change shape with time. Something that did not have to define me. The fire inside the cabin glowed through the window. The mountains stood silent. The lake slept under its shell of ice. I closed my eyes, inhaled the cold air, and let it fill me completely. And for the first time in a long time, the sky felt like a place I could belong again.